The Lower Keys and Key West, they are one of the better places in the world for permit.
I have exciting news. I got my permit.
Good, Mr. Permit.
Hey guys, guess what? I got my permit.
Been very good inside the red zone. Trying to get to the red zone. Pump fake. Critter's in trouble. Fumbled the football. And the Lions, no, they don't have it back. It's still loose. Ronald Flemings has it, and he's got a touchdown. Oh, my goodness. You better pick it up. He fumbled the ball at the goal line.
Yep. Old Permit dropped the ball. The proverbial fumble, if you will. Had the big kickoff 2 weeks ago. Was all ambitious. Everybody was happy. Got the Fogcast started. Got good feedback. Everything was going great. And then I dropped the ball. Couldn't get one out to you last week. And it was just a matter of a number of things. You know, my work schedule, when I could sit down and record, I live in an area that there's just a number of kids, like, and even right up above me, I got a family with young kids, and it's like thunder and screaming and crying, and that time of year as well, where everybody's out in their yards, backyard pools, barbecues, lawnmowers going, the whole 9 yards, and it was getting frustrating as hell. But don't worry, we've got a solution. We're working on a relocation and set up in a proper little studio so we can get this thing recorded each and every week, get it out to you on time so everybody can keep up to date and follow Permit and see what the hell's going on in the world of advocacy. Thanks very much for taking the time to join us for episode number 2 for the week of June 20th through to the 26th. Hope everybody's doing great. Like we talked about, summertime is up upon us. And the yards are getting fixed up. Everything's starting to look pretty nice. The pools in the back are filling up. The barbecues are firing up. And life is good. And I hope you're happy, healthy, and vaping wherever you are in the world. Right now I'm sitting here just putting this thing together for you for this week. And I'm vaping on a little bit of Jughead Strawberry Lemonade. Now, I wanted to bring this up, not necessarily just to promote it. Like I told you in the last podcast, Juggy doesn't believe in somebody sitting there telling you how great it is. You get it into your hands and you'll find out for yourself and let the bottle do the speaking for itself. But I just brought it up because I was never really fond of citrus vapes. And I tried a few lemonades. I'm a big fan of lemonade drink. I love to drink lemonade, especially in the summertime, but I was never really fond of the thought of a citrus vape. And I tried a few lemonade vapes and they were okay, mediocre, a lot of, sweet and whatnot. But let me tell you something. Juggies has got something pretty cool going on with his lemonade line. It is like a fresh squeezed lemonade drink, and it's refreshing. It's realistic. And it's the best I personally have ever had. And I'm not just saying that for the sake of Juggy. It's the absolute truth. He's got actually 9 flavors to choose from. I picked strawberry on my order, and it is pretty spectacular. I'm gonna give him that. Peach, cherry, cranberry, lime, orange, pomegranate, raspberry, strawberry, and just original. And check it out, jugheads.co. 60 ml bottle for $19.99. You can't go wrong, and it is an incredible vape. So let's get down to it. Lots of vaping news from around the globe this week, and we'll cover as many as we possibly can. And also this last Friday, and something else I wanted to mention, this last Friday, I was fortunate enough to partake in a worldwide advocacy talk panel on YouTube, and that was this past Friday on Fresh 03's channel, put together by Fresh 03 and Gizzard Stew. What a phenomenal night. The panel consisted of DJ LSB Vapes from Portugal, Moxley Psychonetic from New Zealand, Paul Blamire from Labworks Vapes in Australia, myself and Robbie Vapes, which was an absolute honor, got to represent Canada, and Understudy from the Plumes of Hazard, Fresh 03 and Gizzards 2 were wrapping it up and looking after the coverage for the USA. And it was packed with some great information, great discussion. Everybody was kind of pretty much on the same page. It was a 2-hour show that over 100 people sat and watched it live and stuck with us for the entire 2 hours. And from what I've seen in the past with Advocacy, now I know it's getting to be more and more, mainstream and people are taking more notice of it. But for people to sit and watch a show, an advocacy show for 2 hours, it meant a lot to me. Those are my real heroes. They're the ones that stuck with it. And kudos to all you guys. The chat was great. There was the odd nut jobs, complaining that it was boring and whatnot. Well, the show was labeled as a worldwide advocacy show. Man, if you can't read that, it's like the old days, if you don't like what you're watching, change the goddamn channel. But anyways, it was a great night, and I look forward to more shows like that. And I'll post a link in the description as well as in the show notes on SoundCloud and on the website. So go check it out. It's still up, and you can watch the replay. It was a great night, and I thank Fresh and Gizzard for putting the show together and for including me in it. It meant a lot to me. Also, this week we will be introducing some of the new segments for the show that we talked about on the first Fogcast. We'll, of course, have the Worldwide Advocacy Tour, where we're going to check out vape-related restriction news from around the globe. I'm going to talk a little bit of our little tiny segment called Device Debut, and this week we're going to feature the Eleaf Pico, and our very first installment of My Vaping Story, which will feature Mr. TJ Rain from Greenbay, Wisconsin. I had about an hour and a half chat with him over the weekend, and unfortunately, for time restriction, we can only give you about 20 minutes of his story, but the guy is fantastic. He's a great guy. He's only been vaping for 6-7 months now, and he's come a long ways, and he's very inspiring to me, and if that's the case, I'm sure he's inspiring to many. So can't wait to hear that. And we're going to conclude the podcast this week with my rant segment called A Permit to Piss Off. So we're going to kick off the Advocacy Watch Tour right here in our backyard in Canada. There's a couple things came out in the news over the last week or so, and one of them was in Quebec. Now, many of the harshest vaping regulations handed down so far in any Canadian province was in Quebec. Late 2015, they suffered hardcore restrictions such as total banning of online sales, vape advertising of any kind, as well as a ban of vaping in public places, which included vape shops. So it really, really hit the B&Ms, the vendors hard out there. And that was the provincial government that put that in. But they have a group out there. What do you want to call it? I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce it because I'm not fluent with French, but it's the AQV, which is basically the equivalent to the Quebec Vaping Association, so to speak. All their funding that they receive through their memberships and donation have been used thus far for hiring scientific specialists to produce expert reports and to testify in court on their behalf. And what they're trying to do is, show the government that they failed to recognize the benefits of vaping and jump the gun a little bit, and throwing it into the mix with tobacco wasn't the right thing to do. And it's to my understanding that this is what the federal government understands. They understand that vaping isn't a tobacco product. It isn't a drug, and it shouldn't be regulated or taxed as such. And the CVA and the Canadian government are working together to put together a proper framework and a structure in order to regulate vaping properly. And kudos to them, but the provincial governments in some provinces are really jumping the gun and pulling the old trick like they are elsewhere in some other places around the world. And that's to just classify it as tobacco. It's the easy thing to do. And just because you blow smoke out of your mouth with a cigarette, you're blowing vapor out of your mouth with a vape. So it's got to be the exact same thing, right? Well, we know that we call BS on that. Recently, the AQV out in Quebec were able to confirm lung specialist Dr. Gaston Astegui and scientific addition expert Jacques Le Huzek. And I hope I pronounced those properly, fellas. If I didn't, I apologize. Like I said, I'm not very fluent with the French. And this is to assist the Quebec government officials of their failure to understand the benefits of vaping. And you can support the AQV's quest to incorporate even more specialists by donating on their GoFundMe page at gofundme.com/LaResistance. That's gofundme.com/LaResistance. One of the little notes that I got from the GoFundMe page was in November 2015, the Quebec government rushed to eliminate its citizens' fundamental rights by implementing Bill 44 that simply placed vaping and vaping accessories into the same category as combustible tobacco. Once again, the AQV's GoFundMe page is gofundme.com/LaResistance. For each $30 donation, the AQV will send you the Resistance t-shirt. And it is a very cool shirt, very cool design, great message. And for a $50 donation, you'll get that shipped to you absolutely free. It's a definite worthwhile cause, and it'll help assist our vaping family out in Quebec. I do encourage all Canadians to go and check that out. Also in the last week, out in Newfoundland, this past week, Newfoundland proposed a Bill 35, which once again would subject vaping to be placed under the same restriction as tobacco. It would be prohibited in indoor public places, including vape shops once again. And the vape shop owners are showing concern that they'll be unable to promote and demonstrate products properly. And anti-smoking groups, surprise, surprise, are applauding the proposed changes to the tobacco legislation. However, saying that the shops won't be affected. Kevin Cody of the Alliance for the Control of Tobacco in Newfoundland says that, Lord Thunder and Jesus, they can still show the damn products, but they just can't have a whole bunch of the buddies standing there chucking the clouds of vapor up into the air. He was also saying that e-cigs could be a good thing. They have helped many people out. He said that the new law isn't meant to punish smokers or vape shop owners, but instead meant to protect the health of children. We're going to get into that in my rant segment. That particular paragraph just infuriated me, and it just shows what some of these groups actually know about our industry and who it affects. He also said that it's all about the health and the fact that kids are impressionable. They see it and they get the impression that everyone is smoking, he said. Now, what a crock of crap, and I'm trying my best to keep this show family friendly. I've really got to focus on what I say, because this is really got me fired up. And we're going to talk a little bit more. I'm going to put that in the rant section, because the rant section is going to have a disclaimer that, we might have a few nasty words dropped in that area. But at the same time, it's crazy. They're going out of their way to make things as confusing as possible so they can just slide it under the door and get things done the way that they want, which is absolute BS in my opinion. Also, this last week, there was some regulations passed in British Columbia on a much more civil level. It's basically like we have here in Alberta: no sales to minors, no vaping in public places, but you can still vape in the vape shops and test the juices. That will be taking effect on September 1st, I believe. And we'll keep an eye on what's going on in British Columbia. Not a great deal else this last week on the Canadian front. We're going to move along to Australia, where the screws just continually are turned against the vaping community down there. I'm in close contact with my friend Paul Blamire from Labworks Vapes, and what goes on down there is just absolutely sick. They're not even consulting the public. They're just making up decisions and putting them into action. So there is an urgent call to action happening right now regarding the Victorian Tobacco Amendment Bill. The Victorian government will be voting on the Tobacco Amendment Bill during this week, and like I said, it could be happening as we speak. The imposed restriction will cripple the retail vaping industry, discouraging smokers from switching to e-cigarettes and force vapors into public smoking areas. It basically just sends a strong message that vaping is just as bad as smoking. And in the near future, even more severe restrictions are going to be placed on smoking, and of course, vaping will be included. And on a side note, this bill was introduced without any public consultation. This is a call to action, and a major one in Australia, and it's crucial for each and every vapor to get involved. Find out how you can do your part by visiting Australian New Nicotine Alliance at nnalliance.org.au and click on the urgent call to action article. And once again, I'll place a link in the description and in the show notes. Next week, we will have Paul Blamire from Labworks Vapes in Australia join us, and we're going to talk about the situation down there. Lots happening, and they also have a federal vote coming up in the next few weeks that could change things a little bit down there as well. So we look forward to next week's show and talking to our buddy Paul and see exactly what is going on down in the land down under. Let's move on to Britain in the UK, and this week as well, June 23rd, the referendum, the Brexit vote will be taking place. Now, there's a lot of factors involved with why Britain would vote to leave the European Union, but vaping is a part of it. If they do leave the European Union, they would be exempt from having to imply the TPD regulations, and so that's something else we're going to be taking a look at as well. I'm not going to touch much on it this week, other than the fact that it is taking place on June 23rd. So on next week's show, we'll take a look at what happened and where Britain, the UK, stands with the European Union. And let's take a look down in the good old US of A, where right now in the world, the majority of the vaping news is taking place. Senator Ron Johnson, as of this recording, the deadline seems to have passed on Senator Ron Johnson's request to the FDA to justify their reasoning for the recent FDA deeming regulations. This is the second request that the senator has submitted to the FDA, and both times nothing has come back. They haven't responded, and it appears now that further actions will have to be taken on that matter. Kudos to Senator Ron Johnson for standing up for our rights as vapors and realizing that the FDA really overreached with their deeming regulations. And also in the political arena, on June 10th, Delegate Larry Faircloth of West Virginia, pro-vapor and fighting for our rights. He's done a great deal for the vaping community, and he filed a suit against the FDA claiming violation of rights and amendments, and that was on behalf of the vaping community as well. And another one that we'll be keeping our eyes on for the next several weeks to come as well. And also, continuing with the lawsuits, the Right to Be Smoke-Free Coalition filed their lawsuit this week. The Right to Be Smoke-Free Coalition filed their lawsuit on behalf of the vaping industry, challenging portions of FDA's deeming regulation and Tobacco Control Act on various constitutional and administrative grounds. Now, the named parties in the lawsuit are Right to Be Smoke-Free Coalition itself, the American E-Liquid Manufacturing Standards Association, the American Vaping Association, the Georgia Smoke-Free Association, the Electronic Vaping Coalition of America, Kentucky Vaping Retailer Association, Louisiana Vaping Association, the Maryland Vape Professionals, Ohio Vape Trade Association, and New Jersey Vapor Retailers Coalition, and the Tennessee Smoke-Free Association. A massive coalition, a conglomeration put together of many of the big parties, and they are going to war with the FDA. And we definitely will be keeping our eye on that one as well. That is the big one. You can check out any of those groups, follow their websites, keep an eye on CASA.org, and keep up with the latest. And right now, in this time of battle, realistically, if you love vaping, you believe that it has done good, you believe that it could do good for the people that are still smoking cigarettes, but you're not advocating, then you're just as much of the problem, and you've got to get up your butts and do something. And also, one last look at in Spokane County this week as well. They put in a ban that vaping will be prohibited in public places and work sites in the Spokane County beginning on July 1st. The Spokane Regional Health District's Board of Directors voted unanimously this week to make Spokane County the 6th in Washington to restrict vaping in public, and the board made an exception for retail vape shops. So that's good news for those in Spokane County. It's only right. I mean, we're all on the same boat. We believe that there should be regulations, but not to the extent that the FDA and other areas of the world, Australia and parts of the, with TPD and stuff as well. It's absolutely ludicrous, and they're totally ignoring scientific facts. So kudos to those in the Spokane County area. And that will wrap up this week's Look Around. I know there's lots of other news out there. We'll touch on that again next week. Let's have a look at our device debut for this week, featuring the Eleaf Pico. Device debut brought to you by Vapor Canada, Canada's #1 source for vapes, e-juice, and more. Amazing service at amazing prices, proudly serving fellow vapors worldwide, and 100% Canadian owned and operated. Right now, you can get the Joytech Ego AIO kit for only $22.50 Canadian. It is a system I personally recommend for you or someone you know trying to give up the cigarettes and wants to be introduced to a healthier alternative. Kangertech Drip Box Kit, only $55.50. Wismec Rouleau RX200 in a choice of 4 colors, only $71.50. And the UL Raphael, only $36.50. Mods, juice, tanks, starter kits, Vapor Canada has it all, including frequent 24-hour flash sales, also a great loyalty program. Visit vaporcanada.com, that's VAPRCANADA.com, or if you are in Calgary, visit them in person at 100 4th Avenue Southwest on the 3rd floor, that's in downtown Calgary, Monday to Friday, 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. Make sure you check them out. Great bunch of people, very friendly, great selection, great prices. Okay, the little Eleaf iStick Pico. It is an amazing little device. Introduced to me by my buddy Paul over in Australia. I was in search of something smaller, more portable. I had a Snowwolf 200 watt. I had the RX 200, the Cooper Plus. All bigger mods, not so portable. Sick of carrying around these big devices, and asked him for his recommendation, and he said you got to get yourself the iStick Pico. So the device debut is just a quick look, a little rundown of devices that I've come across, and I'll just share it with you. It's not so much a formal review, but the little iStick Pico is just an innovative, compact little device powered by a single 18650 cell, which is interchangeable. The battery life on it is absolutely astounding. And it is also firmware upgradable. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I could be wrong, I think they just went up to 80 watt, 85 watt maybe. I got to check into that. I should have been did my homework before I did this, but you can get them in a variety of colors. There's white, silver, hot pink, gray, and black. I personally sport the gray one, which I absolutely love. They're 45 millimeter by 23 millimeter by 70.5 millimeter with a 510 thread. You want to use a high rate or high drain 18650 cell. Continuous discharge current should be above 25 amps. So make sure you get yourself a good quality, well-known battery for it. The output mode is variable wattage, bypass, temperature control for nickel, titanium, stainless steel. And it's also got TCR modes, 3 TCR modes, M1, M2, and M3. And the resistance range is from 0.05 to 1.5 ohm in TC mode and 0.1 to 3.5 ohms in variable wattage or bypass mode. The temperature range 100 to 315 degrees Celsius or 200 to 600 degrees Fahrenheit, and that is in your temperature control modes. You can get the device itself in Canada for, in most places have it for around $45 to $50, but you can get it with the kit that comes with the little Eleaf Milo 3 tank, which is actually a pretty decent little tank. I was surprised. I had the Milo. I wasn't too impressed with it. I had the Milo 2, which was a little better, but the Milo 3, I think they finally nailed it. It's actually a great little 2 milliliter tank, and it's fantastic. On my device, personally, I prefer to use the Conqueror, the Wotofo Conqueror. I absolutely love that tank right now. And the Crown tank, the first Crown tank, doesn't really fit on the way that it's set up where your battery screws in. However, I did talked to Paul, and he said that the Crown 2 does actually fit on it. So that's something to look forward to. So there you go, the Eleaf Pico. You've got to check it out. Great little device just for taking out, especially now that it's summer. You're out for walks, baseball games, football games, whatever the case may be. Great little device to have with you.
My name is TJ, and this is my vaping story.
My Vaping Story is a first-hand account by everyday vapors to tell their experiences with the transition from smoking to vaping, the positive effects and benefits it's had in their lives. My Vaping Story is brought to you by Jughead's Wholesale Division, jugheads.co. We've got the vapors.
The startup was actually kind of random, to be honest. I was just cruising Facebook one day on my phone, and I actually saw a link to Fresh's show. I was like, I didn't know Fresh did YouTube. And I was like, that's something new to me. I'd never seen a link there before. So I clicked on it and found it over on YouTube and went and tried to drop in to say hello, drop some hints in the comments, kept trying to get his attention. And eventually one of his little random squirrel moments where he looks out of the context and sees what's over there, he goes, do I know you? Because at the time, I didn't have my name as TJ on YouTube. It was as Bronze Truck 811. Because back in the day, whenever I created my first YouTube account, I couldn't think of a clever name, so I just used their randomizer. And so I had to keep dropping him hints because I wasn't fully sure how the whole live thing worked, or those messages going to stay on YouTube for people to look at. So I kept dropping hints. I was like, yeah, you know me from Fort Polk. He goes, I do? I was like, yeah, we lived in the same barracks, and I kept dropping little hints. Eventually he figured it out, and he's like, do you vape? I'm like, nope. He's like, how did you find my live show then? I'm like, well, just by accident looking on my Facebook feed and saw you had a YouTube link. He's like, I didn't realize I posted that to my personal page. Have you thought about vaping? Have you ever tried vaping? I'm like, no. I'm like, I'd tried those little Vuse cigarettes, those terrible things that Philip Morris makes or whatever. They tasted like aluminum, and was not going to do the trick to get me to go, yeah, let me quit smoking. I think Philip Morris and them did that on purpose, just so people would taste it and go, yeah, this is terrible. There's no way I'm going to drop a pack of cigarettes for this. Well, let me send you a setup. He said, let me find something I got, or I can pick up for you, and I'll send you something in the mail. He's like, he sent me a message the next day. He's like, what kind of things do you like to eat, or what's some of your favorite types of things to drink, stuff like that. And told him I was like, anything cinnamony, caramely, those are like my go-to sweets. I was like, or even like if you can get some with like a cream pie flavor, love cream pie, stuff like that. Like, all right. So I get a message a couple days later. He's like, I'm going to send you what's called an e-cigator sub-ohm kit. And it's a vape style pen with a little 2 mil glass tank on it. Okay. He's like, I'll send directions with it so you don't have to read the directions in the box, make it easy on you. And he sent me like 4 different juices, like the couple of 6 milligram, couple of 9 milligram. He's like, I would suggest starting with the 6. You can try the 9 if the 6 milligram aren't working for you, just to get the nicotine cravings out of the way. In his note that he wrote in there, he said, if you feel like you want a cigarette, you keep sucking on that vape pen until you do not. He's like, that will keep you from going out and smoking. Initially, when I got it, I didn't get it till after I came home from work, which was like 7 or 8 o'clock at night. And I opened it up, threw it all together, filled the tank up, took a rip off it. I was like, ooh, this tastes way better than the cigarette. This might be something up my alley. And one of the flavors he sent with me was called cinnamon Danish. And that cinnamon Danish, that was the juice. That was the one that told me, you know what, I'm done. I don't need that anymore. It's right on par. It was strong enough flavored to where I could go, it alleviates that need for the cigarette, for one. And 2, it tastes a hell of a lot better. I was like, I feel like I'm having dessert without all the calories. This is great. It doesn't get better than that. And I was like, well, let me do a little unboxing video for him, just as a kind of a thank you. Hadn't really done a YouTube thing before. So I threw together a video and posted it up for him. And I know there's a comment on there where he said something along the lines of, you look like a kid in a candy store. He said that was the kind of expressions I was hoping for to come out, where you looked all giddy and excited about it. And I thoroughly was, once I realized that, A, it wasn't just the nicotine, but I was still getting that hand-to-mouth habit, as well as I was still getting a little cloud out of it. So I was like, oh, this is just like smoking. This is great. The other thing is I could do it inside the house because it didn't stink up the house. I was like, so it made it worthwhile. And then I was like, after about a month or 2 of use of it, I was like, I need something a little bit stronger, I think. And not so much on the nicotine side of things, as I wanted something more of like a little more of a throat or chest feel. Like when I took a rip off of it, I could tell I was ripping off of it. So he's like, well, if you think you're ready. And so he sent me an iStick 50 watt. And was it a K-Fun V6 or something like that? Or I don't remember exactly what the name of it is. But it was a tank, replaceable coils. The coils I got ran around 40 watts. And that 40 watts, oh my God. That flavor difference between that sub-ohm pen and moving up to that tank with a little higher wattage, it was like night and day. It was oh my God, what have I been missing? Like, I went into the vape shop as soon as I realized what the flavor on that thing was. And I'm trying every different juice I can to see what's going to be gold in this. What is going to be golden tasting? At that point, I'd been into the local vape shop once just to try a couple of different juices. I bought a peanut butter juice and some other, I can't even remember what the hell it was. I think it was a marshmallow, caramel, and vanilla. And I was like, I really like caramel, and it had a little heavy on the marshmallow taste. So I was like, yeah, it's all right. It was good in the vape pen because the marshmallow didn't come through so heavy. More of the caramel did, which was surprising. So I went in there, tried some more juices, and I found this same juice I'm stuck on now, which is called Fat Sandwich. It's peanut butter, banana, and it's got a strawberry type glaze on it. And it tastes like the closest I can think is something Elvis Presley would have eaten. You give him that old strawberry banana fried sandwich, hit it with a little strawberry jam on there. Like, that's what it tastes like to me. And I was like, that's been one of my go-tos from their shop. And then I'm watching more videos. I'm getting invites to his show to hang out. I'm talking to everybody else, and I see all these wicked cool devices to me. Because me being new into the scene, I'm like, oh my God, everything is so cool. And I see fucking Getty with his mech mods, and I see all these mods in the shops. I'm like, I want this and this and that and that. I'm like, all right, whoa, pump the brakes, dude, pump the brakes. And eventually I started looking into the iStick because I was like, well, I've already got one iStick in the 50 watt. I was like, the product works great. It has a nice hand feel to it. It's not overly bulky. So I saw that they had dropped the iStick 100 watt. I was like, well, let's start there, get something where I can pump up the watts a little bit. So I ordered one of those, I think off a 101 vape or something like that. And I also bought a Heracles Plus tank, something that was going to throw a lot more flavor. Now, that Heracles Plus tank, it does throw flavor. However, I've noticed now that I've gotten farther into this, there's only one thing I disliked about it, and that was that drip tip is A, a mile long, so it just looks funny, and B, it's all plasticky, so you get this rancid plastic taste with it sometimes when you take a rip. The other downside I found with that was it likes to drink juice. Like it's like having a V8 in my truck. It's the same concept. I'm just blowing through it. And so I was like, well, why don't I look into an RDA? And I started talking to Fresh about that as well. So Fresh sent me actually what I'm been currently vaping on, which is this Velocity clone. And I'm loving it. The idea, he sent me the wire and everything else. In fact, the first time I built on it, he didn't send me any coils. He just sent me the wire. I didn't realize what I was supposed to do with it, so I looked it up, and I didn't have a coil kit or a small enough screwdriver or anything to work off of. So I went in my golf bag and I grabbed a golf tee, the skinniest one I could possibly find. And I've still got that golf tee sitting on my desk because it's a reminder of my first little vape excursion in the building. It was like, it's got to be like 4 or 5 millimeters across because they were fat coils. They and like now with having the coil kit that Leafa sent me and stuff, I see just how bad those first set of coils I made were. They were just ugly, but ugly or not, they vaped. That was the key. They heated from the middle, went to the outside like everybody said it should do. I was like, okay, I did something right here. When I wicked it up that first time, oh, the flavor off of that is 100 times better than tank. I'm like, uh-oh, I've been progressing, getting better builds, and I've been thinking about trying to learn how to make Clapton coils. Then again, I haven't tried them in here, but I've seen videos from like Trevor Jones, and watching his video on it just makes it seem like a monkey could do it. So granted, monkeys can be taught just about anything. Maybe an I can do it type moment. And so I was like, oh, we might get into that eventually. And instead, now my builds look nice. They don't look so damn rickety anymore, and they're pumping off a hell of a lot more flavor and chucking way bigger clouds than I was expecting to off of this. But that's all right. That just means wherever I go, I need to be courteous because I know not everybody vapes and not everybody wants to deal with a big-ass cloud in their face. And I guess same concept as smoking. When I was a smoker, I was trying to be courteous about it because I didn't want people that weren't smokers to be subjugated to my bad habit. That's something else I noticed. As I was a smoker, I knew it was a bad habit. I knew it was a terrible habit. So I tried to step as far away from non-smokers as I possibly could when I would go to smoke, because I knew they didn't want to be subjugated to what I was doing to myself. So in the back of my mind, I always knew it was wrong, or it was something I shouldn't be doing, but it was something that I couldn't control. That switch to vaping now, it's something I control when I want to take a rip, when I don't. Half the time I don't need to, but when I'm vaping on stuff like hazy custard, I can't help it. I'm like, this stuff is so good. It was 2 weeks ago when I first got that banana bondage in from Dawn. Oh my God. I couldn't see my TV from my couch in my living room. It was ridiculous because I was just one after another after another. I was afraid that I was going to melt my coils because it was that good. I'm like, that's the reason why I want to keep vaping, keep advocating, let people know, hey, this is a safe alternative. What the FDA is putting out there and those garbage studies from like the American Lung Association, they're doing that stuff because they're in cahoots with big pharma and big tobacco. There's that wonderful, what I like to call the tobacco triangle, where the doctor says you need to quit smoking and they send you on to this pill. The pill doesn't work and you end up back on cigarettes. And it's just a vicious cycle. I know, I was there once. I was like, when I was in the Army, their big thing was, do you want to quit smoking? Anytime you would go, any doctors for pre-deployment, whatever. If so, they would try to help you, give you Chantix. That shit gave me nightmares. Couldn't do that. So it was just a vicious cycle where I was like, smoking was safer because it was something I knew. I knew what to expect off of it. The downside is I thought about it and I go, every morning I woke up, the first thing I did before I did anything else, I would stumble my ass outside, eyes half closed, half dressed half the time to smoke cigarettes so I could get ready for my day. Now I don't do that. So I'm like, a lot of times, unless it's like a weekend, my vape, while I'm getting ready, I don't mess with it. It'll take hour before I take a rip off of it. So it's like the weekends are different. I wake up and I go, ooh, what can I taste this morning that's going to get my palate in a good mood? It's definitely a different change of pace. I don't have that middle of the night wake up and go, ooh, I could use a cigarette and then get out of bed and go smoke a cigarette type moment. That didn't happen a lot when I was a smoker because, well, it's kind of lazy. If I was in bed, I wasn't getting out. But I don't have that infuriating craving where I'm getting angry with people because I don't have a cigarette or something of that nature. Or I go to some sort of event where there's no smoking, and in order to smoke, you got to walk 3/4 of a mile to get out and smoke and then come back. I don't worry about that stuff. If I go to an event now, I'm no smoking, no vaping. Okay, whatever. That's fine. They can wait. The last cigarette I had on that third day tasted so miserable that it was to the point of where I didn't want to smoke. I was like, why was I doing this to myself to where, A, I taste like shit. Now I can smell. So I can smell everyone who smokes. It's like walking by ashtrays. Even when I smoked, I hated the smell of the ashtray, which is why I never smoked in my house. It was always outside. But now I'm going, what was I doing to the people around me? I'm like, A, I was killing myself one nail in the coffin at a time, and everyone else who I walked by had to put up with my rancid ass smell. And it was terrible. That man, I'm glad I had the chance to meet him in the Army, because if I had not, I would not be where I am today, vaping, no cigarettes. I don't even, the thought of cigarettes just is disgusting. I want anybody who I run across who's smoking to quit. It's just that easy. But that's where it's led me. It's a complete life changer. And then, not to mention, you go on to the side of, well, I'm not smoking anymore. Who else can I get to not smoke anymore? Try to help them, because I know it's saving my life. I know I can save others. It's just a sad thing where the FDA is stepping in the United States and other countries where their countries are stepping in to try to slam it down, whether it be Australia or wherever, especially since I'm relatively new to the vape thing. I've only been here since end of November, beginning of December-ish. So I figure I'm almost 7 months into it now, and I feel bad for those people who in the future may not get the same opportunity that I had. It just may not be it just seems like they're taking away such a wonderful advancement, medically, because medically, look at what the Royal College of Physicians put out. Those guys are always on top of the game, well before the U.S. even. And they're saying 95 to 99% safer than smoking. Guess what? I'll put my money on that pot any day. I'll go all in. I'm there already. And that's why I'm going to start DIYing next month. So that way, A, save some money on juices, and B, come up with my own tasty creations. I'm glad that he's the guy that got me started to do this. Because to be honest, I can't preach enough about him. Everything he's done for me up to this point is amazing. And now he's just watching me do my thing. And if I have questions, he's always there to answer. He's there to answer anybody's question. I can tell you from personal experience, knowing him on a personal level, that's not a facade. That's his everyday mantra. He's there all the time. If you need something, he'd give you the shirt off his back in an instant. He's been that way since the first day I met him. When I moved to Fort Polk, Louisiana while I was in the Army, he was one of the first people I met when I moved into my barracks. Nicest guy from the beginning all the way to the time where he got out of the Army. There was a point where I even took vacation just to go fucking hang out with him. I took a week to leave just to go up to Washington State and hang out. I'm like, he's that kind of friend where you want to do stuff like that. He's the kind of person you want leading this type of vaping movement to keep the advocacy portion of it alive, keep making people take the right steps away from smoking, the whole 9 yards. It's just the way he is. He cares about everyone else. A lot of times it happens above himself too. So there's another huge part of that, and part of that is my family. I've got a 1-year-old, my girlfriend. That's a huge influence. I want to live to see both of them outlive me. In the long run, make it better for both myself, my family, and hopefully everyone around me, even if it comes to, if I'm on a live show on Wednesday or something, and somebody who's never tuned in, they've got the right idea. Maybe I should give this a go and try to kick the habit. I want that same mentality. That idea of being able to help someone else has always been my thing. I mean, otherwise I wouldn't have worked in the medical field while I was in the military. Worked as an X-ray and CAT scan tech while I was there. What else more could you want to do for somebody other than make their life better? I mean, that was the whole idea of working in the medical field. And now switching to vaping, you can still do the same thing, even if I'm not doing that anymore. I mean, technically I'm still working in the medical field, but it's the insurance side of the business. So it's quite a bit different. Pushing forward to help somebody else persevere, that's even better than just myself. But to be honest, I am a little selfish in the idea of I want to live longer. My dad smoked for God knows how many years. Back in 2008, he lost both of his legs due to a blood clot in his descending aorta. Eventually, that ended up causing necrosis in his legs prior to them taking him. He had kidney failure. A lot of this stuff he probably could have came back from real well, but he was a smoker for so long. So a lot of the treatments they tried weren't working. He ended up eventually passing away in 2012 from a heart attack in his sleep, which we can only all be so lucky to go in our sleep. But I look at that and I look at what my old man did to himself over the course of so many years. I don't want to be that guy. Yes, there's a lot of things about my dad that I envy a lot. His work ethic, there was nobody I've ever met that worked harder than that man. He worked in the carnival business for well over 30 years. He left home when he was like 15 years old, joined the carnival. Never looked back, started out at the bottom. By the time he was done, he had part ownership in it, and he would work from the second the rooster crowed till well past midnight, and he did it every day. The only time he had off was during the winter when there was no carnivals to be had. And then he would go right back to work come springtime, travel the entire East Coast of the nation. I mean, in his younger days, he'd traveled the rest of the states as well. So he'd seen all the states, which is the same reason I've got to see a lot of the states, because I went and hung out with him during the summer. What it did to his quality of life, I know smoking had a large impact on. I mean, because nobody can work that hard and not be semi-healthy. But when he was smoking there was times when I'd see him smoke 2 packs a day. I'm like, you can't expect to keep doing that and get away with it. It's just not going to work. Eventually, it's going to catch up to you. And I think that's what happened, or in large part what happened to him with that blood clot. So I just don't want to be that person. Hopefully, this positive life choice will, in the long run, make a better run at it than what my father had. My father passed away. He was 51 years old. He was young. I'm thinking, I'm not even 20 years from that. I don't want to get to that age and go, oh, fuck, my legs are gone. Oh, shit, I'm dead. I want to make it into my 70s, 80s. If I can make it into my 90s, awesome. I just want to make sure the quality of life is there. And if that means vaping is the way to keep that quality of life there, I'm going to continue doing it. Come hell or high water, whether the FDA throws that full ban into effect or not, it doesn't matter to me. I've already made that decision. And if they at some point say, well, if we catch you with it, we're going to throw you in jail, I can walk away and know that I won't have a problem walking away from it. And we'll know that that was the best life choice for me. It made it so I quit smoking. So I can't be mad about that.
And that was TJ from Greenbay, Wisconsin, and he's got an amazing story from an incredibly amazing man. And TJ and I, like I said earlier, had about an hour and a half conversation that was informative, entertaining from the beginning to end. And I wish I could have played the entire conversation for you guys. It was absolutely a great time. But thanks again, TJ, for telling us your story. And based on what we discussed, you'll be a huge influence to anyone you interact with. And we'll be sending out your Jughead sample pack for participating. And if you would like to come on a Fogcast and tell your vaping story, just send me an email to contact@permitthefog.com and we'll arrange for you to do so.
piss me off.
Okay, permit to piss me off, the rant section. It's going to be a segment, opinionated segment of the show. It's based on my opinion only, and you can agree with it. You don't have to agree with it. It's fine. It's just an opinion. I want to keep it as clean and respectable as possible. I'll try my very best, but, I'm human, and we're all human, and sometimes things that get us fired up, you tend to drop the odd F-bomb or something like that. But this week, I want to touch on the article I was reading earlier on the Bill 35 proposal in Newfoundland. And, I'm finding that in a lot of areas, a lot of these ideals are proposed by advocacy groups, and a lot of them are copping out, in my opinion, and using the kids as their driving factor. And to me, it's absolute nonsense. Now let's go back to this article about bill number 35 in Newfoundland. Now I played around earlier with the Newfies, we call them Newfies, the Newfoundlanders. I love Canadian citizens. I love Canada, and it was just a play. It wasn't, there's no disrespect intended, but, this clown, this Kevin Cody of the Alliance of the Control for Tobacco in Newfoundland, if you're going to put yourself out there and come up with some just cause, do your homework and make sure that you have all your facts in order before you just start spewing shit out of your mouth that irrelevant to the whole situation. I understand he's obviously part of this Alliance for Control of Tobacco, and he believes in that, and good for him. Mr. Cody, good for you for supporting something you believe in. On the other hand, if you're going to go out and publicly speak on your cause, make it truthful, make it factual. First of all, saying that, you're not trying to destroy the e-cigs. The e-cigs could be a good thing. They've helped many people quit cigarettes. And he said that the new law isn't meant to punish smokers or vape shop owners, but instead meant to protect the health of children. I see your point, to an extent. Yes, I understand that kids are impressionable. Okay, we have all grown up. We've all been through that. Those of us that do and have smoked and started at a young age, myself included, around the age of I tried smoking as early as 5 or 6 years old. I got into it and started smoking fairly steady at the age of 12 or 13. I know others that were smoking since they were 10 or 11 years old. And yes, it is something that we're influenced not only by our parents, not only by adults, but by others around us. Sometimes we want to be in with a hipper crowd. We hang out with older kids to be part of that coolness, and we're influenced by things that they do. My point being is, and I don't condone this action, however, I will state this, and again, this is my personal opinion. If I were forced to give an option to someone underage that wanted to either smoke or vape, I would strongly suggest that they vape. It's just because I know for a fact what it's done for me and how much healthier it is from cigarettes. Does that mean that I would go and encourage kids to start vaping? Absolutely not. I'm dead against that. I'm all for the regulations of not selling to minors and strictly enforcing it. I'm also about encouraging people that have never smoked not to start vaping. There's no point. It's not a coolness factor. It's not a fad. It's not about being able to, experience these great flavors and stuff. Hell, if you want the flavors that bad, go out and drink or eat the flavors. Don't get it don't start vaping just to experience those flavors. It's absolutely ridiculous. But let me say something else is the fact that not only if you're going to go to that extent and go public and say that, vaping needs to be banned because it's influencing the kids, well then let's stop and take a look at the other things that are probably influencing kids. Let's ban the internet. Let's ban iPhones and iPads and cell phones and tablets and laptops. Let's ban games, the video games. Let's ban PlayStation and Xbox. Let's ban all the flavored alcohols that are on the market. I'm sure that a bottle of cherry vodka is just as encouraging to a kid than a bottle of cherry e-liquid. Don't throw the kids into the mix. If you strongly believe in your cause, come up with the scientific facts and the reasons that people shouldn't vape. Don't cop out and use the kids as a pawn, because realistically, to protect the adults that have no control over their kids, and that's basically what you're trying to get at. Another thing you mentioned, that if someone can use an electronic cigarette to get off the real thing, that's wonderful. However, this legislation doesn't stop that. You can still use an e-cigarette, just don't expect to use them in schools, bingo halls, or hockey rinks. What the hell is that? It's okay if I walk into Walmart. It's okay if I walk into Tom Hortons or Tim Hortons. Fresh, there's a plug for you, buddy. Anyways, what I'm saying is schools, bingo halls, or hockey rinks? Come on, buddy. You're just making a total jackass out of yourself. And I think it's absolute nonsense. Quit throwing the kids into the mix. Don't use them as the pawns. Come up with your scientific facts, your absolute proof that vaping is as dangerous or more dangerous than cigarettes before you start shooting off. Don't just use some cop-out excuse and expect that you're going to pull the wool over everybody's eyes, because sooner or later, the truth is going to come out to almost everyone, and you're going to look like a total jackass. So good luck with that, sir. And just one more little thing to end this rant, and it's something that's been going on within the community for the last couple months here, is the unity. And it's been said over and over and over again, but I personally am still seeing it. It's getting better, but I'm still seeing it. And let's just take a quick look at the definition of the word unity. The quality or state of not being multiple or divided, in harmony, or a condition of harmony, continually without deviation or change. The quality or state of being made one. Sure, there's cloud chasers that only vape 0 milligram nic. There's flavor chasers. There's DIY gurus. There's coil builders. There's high wattage vapors. There's low wattage vapors. Those who only vape on stainless steel. Those who only vape on nichrome. Those who only use Kanthal. Those who like Clapton coils. Those who use regular cotton, and those who use Japanese organic cotton. Those who prefer fruit flavor, and those who prefer bakery. Those who vape at 3 milligram, and those that vape at 18. Those who get free products to review, and those who pay for products to review. Those who advocate, those who like to mouth-to-lung vape, and those who like the direct warm lung vapes. There's many differences in what we like or what we prefer, but we all have one common bond. That should be what defines us as who we are. And that one common bond is that we have all taken that step to live a better quality life, and that we are no longer entrapped in the vicious circle of traditional combustible tobacco cigarettes. Nothing else. We can have all the different little cliques we want within the community, but we are all fighting for the same purpose. And don't be selfish enough to think for a moment that you're not going to be affected by any of the regulations because you already got all your equipment, and there's no way that you can not get your flavors or your VG or your PG or your nic or your wire or your cottons or your batteries, that it'll just be there forever and you're okay. Just stop for one moment and think about what this miracle has done for you and what it could do for the millions and millions and millions of others that are out there that are still entrapped and are being fed all the negative BS by the media about vaping, and will never have the opportunity to step forward. Educate daily, advocate daily, and be a part of this movement and save what is something that is valuable to so many of us. I'd like to thank you very much for listening this week. I can't thank you enough for taking time out to spend with me. And we look forward to seeing you next week for episode number 3. Paul Blamire from Australia will be on. We got more news from around the world. And also, definitely, you'll have another Permit to Piss Off rant. And we look forward to seeing you. Thanks very much for taking the time out. We hope that you'll join us again next week. Take care. Stay happy. Stay healthy. Vape on. And check out jugheads.co.